This is a plea. This is a plea to help us find the answers so that we can close this case.
That was Marilyn Stevenson, Justin Hooiman's mother, at a press conference in 2021, 4 years after Justin went missing. Hooiman was living at Fortitude Treatment Center here in Salt Lake when he seemingly vanished. Now, November 20th, 2017, Justin called his mother in the morning of that day to invite her to lunch, I believe at Intermountain Medical Center that day. And she sent him a text where they should meet. He never answered. He has not been seen or heard from since. Now, the family said in that 2021 press conference, they've accepted the idea that Justin's no longer alive, but wanted him to be found, properly mourned, then buried. Justin Hooiman is the topic of tonight's Utah's Missing. Our guest, private investigator Jason Jensen, works on a variety of cases with a lot of different families, some things more solvable than others. We'll get into that. But I want to ask you quickly about social media because it was the topic of last week's discussion with the 15-year-old missing from South Jordan, last seen in Provo, and we'll talk about Elisa Petrov in a moment. But with everything that people are sharing on social media, some believe it's difficult to truly go missing because people's lives are so present with technology now. Do you see that point or that purpose?
Well, yeah. I mean, especially like a missing teenager, typically they're very active on social media, and if all of a sudden that ceases, you have to ask yourself, why are they no longer on social media? You know, interacting with their friends, posting selfies, things of that nature. It's really hard to go missing, but the evidence is very clear when someone does.
So Salt Lake City Police told me yesterday they have no updates on the whereabouts of Justin Hooiman. And now there's been the conversations over the years, the confidential informant in 2019 saying, we believe he was murdered. Still no body if that was the case. Do you have any updates on Justin Hooiman?
Well, it's very interesting. If anyone really remembers a few years ago, there was a case where there was an indictment of 21 SAC gang members, which is Soldiers of Aryan Culture. We believe because he was housed at Fortitude with many of those SAC members and worked with them at NORDA, that he was scheduled to testify against that gang, and for him to disappear during that time frame seems awfully suspicious. And he was supposed to testify. The U.S. Marshal was looking for him when he disappeared. So that's very telling, very revealing to us. Anybody that knows the gang, has some affiliation, that fell out, probably knows something.
So how would you approach a case like this? I mean, minimal leads, time has passed, and time doesn't really work in your favor. At some point, it seems to stop, right? I mean, you would know better than anyone. Long-term cases, some things run a little bit drier as the years go on. But a case like this, what's the key? What's the glue to putting this together to say, oh, Justin is alive, or Justin is no longer with us? We need someone to speak up, it sounds like.
Right, definitely somebody knows, because you just don't leave a treatment center where you were leaving work that day and not show up to work. But, you know, there's a lot of suspicious nature about that. There was another resident at the place that had his phone a couple days later. It's like, how did he get the phone? And what is the story behind that? So for his phone to disappear separated from him seems a little odd, and it seems to be a very bright clue.
Yeah, and this many years later, there's a lot of pieces that were out there early on in this thing. In your experience, how hard are these cases really hit as time goes on by the detectives working them?
The biggest problem you have with missing persons cases is if there's some kind of innocent excuse why they might be missing, like a 15-year-old could be that they're just simply, you know, hiding with friends. It'll come up. There's nothing suspicious about that. We're not going to work too hard or spend too many resources on it. Or versus like an adult, you know, Justin was 27 years old. For him to disappear, well, you know, just because he's not accounted for by you doesn't mean that he's truly missing. It just means that he's not reporting to you where he's at. And so they don't really focus too much until enough time passes, and by that, when too much time passes, all the clues evaporate, because one of the most important things about missing person cases is if it's someone that's truly missing, you got to act quickly. But when there's over 500,000 missing person reports a year, and the bulk of them, all but 1%, gets resolved, on their own usually, which ones do you pick to focus on? Which ones do you not? It took Marilyn, Justin's mother, over 2 years to get the police actually to accept and file a missing persons report.
Well, so on that point, what resources for people like the Hooiman family, when police seem to have exhausted all their efforts with the case, what else is out there as an opportunity to get the answers? Or is it solely on the family at those points?
Yeah, usually if it falls back to just the family to do something about it, we encourage them to contact any nonprofit that specializes in missing persons. That's why us at the Cold Case Coalition, we opened the Missing Persons Coalition, which is a program of the Cold Case Coalition that we focus on missing persons cases, because one of the case types that we came across over the years of doing cold cases that we saw was the #1 most likely type of case to go cold was missing persons. So we opened up a program led by Marilyn Stevenson, Justin's mother. She's the best person for the job because she can, for the purpose of services, she understands what missing family members need because she's one herself.
And on that subject, before we leave you, what do families need that have folks that are missing? I mean, what do they need when the times are tough, when the answers aren't coming, when police may not return the call for another week? What sort of help do they need?
The first thing that they really need to obtain is any digital footprints. If they know that they left with a phone, they're going to want to contact the carrier, do a preservation letter to freeze data from being lost so that's preserved for law enforcement when law enforcement does get involved. We have mechanisms and volunteers in place to help educate these family members so they know what to do in their time of need when it comes up. But definitely their digital detail, their activities, GPS data from the carrier, about their phone, any bank information activity about credit cards or anything like that would be very helpful, because then that puts together a paper trail of their last activity and possibly even the last known whereabouts, where to look.
Jason Jensen, we always have a lot to talk about, and we will do this again because there are more cases than we know what to do with, but also every case is different. Everything is nuanced. So thank you for coming in. Private investigator in the Cold Case Coalition, and if you need Jason, he is easy to find. Thanks for doing this.
Thank you.
So if you know Justin or have any information or believe that you have something that can help find him or know of his whereabouts, Salt Lake City Police still working this case, although no updates to share. 801-799-3000.